I'm going to be walking through two things. The first half will be all things rebase. So Git Rebase as a replacement for Git Merge, Git Rebase's advanced features, an alias for a work in progress commit, and Git best practices. So I'm going to jump into it. In previous versions of Git, when you would type git pull develop from your working branch, it would default to git merge. Now, as of Git 2.0, which we are using in our sandboxes, it will ask you to specify your strategy. So I'll be demoing its replacement as a git merge. So let me just make this branch out of date. August 19th, that's pretty out of date. So right here, I'm simulating me working on this branch with commits that are not yet in develop, and this branch being out of date with the head of develop. All right. If I do a log, you see my working branches commits, and this would be head of develop. So you see that I have my two commits from today, and the latest I have from develop is August 19th. So it's missing all of these. So let's use the default behavior of Git Rebase. So I'm going to type origin here. That's because my local develop is out of date. I just didn't want to switch to it and pull it. So I'm telling it to use the remote develop. So it said it applied my two commits. If I look at this, compare it now, my two commits from today, and then it's now completely up to date with develop. So you see all my commits are at the top in a chain. That's one of the main differences of Git Rebase, is it doesn't intermingle your history with the history of develop. It's as if I branched off develop a minute ago. There also isn't a merge commit here saying merging from develop into Andrew/demo. So that's a thing that only appears with Git merge, and it's a useless commit, and it would pollute our Git history here. So let me get into why Git merging is bad with this awesome diagram. So that's exactly it, Donato. So you see here in this example, this is develop, and then branch A, branch B. Branch A merges into develop first before branch B. So this right here, this is a foxtrot commit. It's a little bit complicated to explain. It's usually explained purely through parents and like grandparents, but it's easy to think of it as merging from develop to get your branch B up to date creates a foxtrot commit. And what it does is develop now becomes a child to branch B instead of remaining the parent throughout history. So this contaminates our Git history, and what it does is it makes our develop no longer the trunk Subversion homies represent. But so Git Rebase doesn't do this. It effectively makes it so that you branch off the most recent develop. And just as a side note, if you contribute to an open source project on GitHub, you'll find out that if you did a merge, a Git merge instead of a Git Rebase, your merge request will be automatically rejected by GitHub's system. So it's pretty out of style to use GitHub at this, or not GitHub, Git merge at this point. I'm going to be getting into advanced Git Rebase features and how it helps you achieve best practices. So everyone makes work in progress commits and half-baked commits. The most common reasons would be you're committing incomplete work because it's the end of the day and you're afraid your PC might explode overnight, or you're about to do a big refactor and potentially break everything. And so you would make a snapshot by doing a commit, or you would realize you messed up your previous commits and you would want to correct them. So then you would be spreading out what should effectively be one commit into multiple. So these work in progress and half-baked commits are bad to commit and to develop because they pollute our Git history. It makes it harder to understand what's going on when you look through our history of a repo. And it also means that, I'm just making an assumption here, for X number of commits in your branch that you're trying to merge, it would make, at these points in time for develop, either unstable or broken. So that's no bueno. Another addendum to work in progress commits is our Git hooks prevent commits that don't compile. And this is extremely common with TypeScript. So that's where this new work in progress alias would come into effect. So let me just demo that here. So this will fail. You see it's running our Git hooks. So ESLint is configured to not allow warnings, and the console statement is considered a warning. So it prevented my commit. Let's show you. It's not committed. So a way around this is using a commit flag. Alternatively, you can use this alias I created. So let me just so it immediately skipped over our pre-commit hooks. This is a post-commit hook, so this will always run. If you see here, so what it did is it bypassed those pre-commit hooks, and it also prefixed your commit with this. So this is just a good way of conveniently committing if you don't want to learn all the options available to the commit command, and it makes it easy to tell that what you're doing is in fact a work in progress commit. But let me just clean this up. So this is getting into best practices now. A commit within trunk or master or develop should be stable and independent of other commits. So a commit should represent one feature or one bug fix. And what I'm going to show you is how to make the final version of what you're working on clean in a Git context. So Git Rebase accepts many different things here. Just to name a few, a local branch, a remote branch, or a commit hash. So we're going to go with a commit hash. So I want to clean up these commits that are belong to this branch. You see, everything after what's being tracked by develop. So I want to do stuff after this commit hash. So I'm going to copy this commit hash. Emphasis on after. So this excludes the commit hash I'm selecting. It's everything afterward. And actually, my local branch is out of date. So I'm just going to update it now. It's now updated. So to do an advanced rebase, you pass in the interactive flag, and then your commit hash. What's going on there? Did I copy it? Must have lost it. All right. So the interactive flag, provide that. So an important thing to note, before you do any rebasing, please push your work. Treat the remote as the backup in case of user error. All right, so this is the screen for Git Rebase. You see all the commits here. All the commits here I'm going to be manipulating. All the actions are listed here. I'm only going to go through a couple of them, the most common. Pick is the default behavior of Rebase. So if I didn't touch this, I left it as pick, it would lay all of these commits on top of whatever I provided. And because I provided a hash in the current local branch, nothing would actually happen because you didn't tell it to do anything. But if I pass in develop, it would be laying in all these commits you see on top of the head of develop within my branch. It makes my branch up to date with develop without a foxtrot merge. So that's pick. The next most common ones are reword. It's pretty self-explanatory. It lets you edit the commit message. You can use git commit amend to edit the latest commit message. However, if I want to update ones that aren't the latest, reword is where it's at. Edit lets me modify that commit at that point in time. So this goes into making sure your commits are independent, because if you have an older commit that is broken and you append to your latest commit, that means at a certain point in time, develop is unstable. Squash. So these two are the most common, I would say, for use for me. Squash and fix up let you merge commits into one. And the only difference being that fix up discards the commit message if you don't care about it. Also, you can rearrange commits like this. So this will change how it appears in your Git history if you need to do that for some reason. So these commit messages you see at the top, do not touched these yet. If you want to squash or rename them, it will provide a subsequent prompt for you to modify them. The only thing you do in this window is you change this keyword here for each commit, if desired. All right, so yeah, so I think all these can be merged into one. They're all one feature. So to do that, I'm just going to change these to squash, just because I want to keep this text for when I create the final commit message. So this looks good. I am ready to save and exit. All right. So this is the next prompt. This is telling me to create a new commit message for the commit, which I just collapsed all four into one. And so it's listing all of my commit messages here. I'm just going to build this out now. Let's see, what's a good title? This is adding fixer and PHP stand. Is there anything else I should document in the title? All right. And now I can make a description. So Git allows for descriptions, and it also allows it to be in Markdown. So I'm going to do this now. So I want this all to be bullets. Yes. Yeah, just there's already some overlap in these commits. I'm just hashing this out. So I don't need that. That looks good. That looks good. I want these to be indented. And just for casing consistency, doesn't really matter in terms of casing, but yeah, this looks like a decent commit message to me. So how this works is your title is restricted to 50 characters. That means that if your title exceeds 50 characters, you'll have to click into it to see more information. But it's very easy to go over 50 characters. So when you click this button, it opens the description, which is what I'm writing here. And it would also expand your title if it did exceed the 50 character limit. And you see here, I'm at 54 characters. Actually, I think the limit is like, let's see, it's going to warn me. There it is. So it turned all red saying I did a bad thing and I should simplify my title. If you need to provide more information, that's what the description is here for. All right, is there anything else I want to do for this commit? No. It's good for me. I'm going to save and exit. All right, saying it's telling me it's successfully rebased. So we see here, it's combined all of the commits within this specific branch into one. and August 20th would be the most recent one belonging to develop. So that looks good to me. So I'm also going to showcase using Rebase to edit at a point in time. All right, so I have some commits here. Let's say something was wrong with this one. I goofed. I can correct that without having develop being unstable for these two commits. I can correct it within this commit in the place I made the mistake. I didn't seem to copy it. All right, so I want to edit this one. I'm ready to save and exit. So it stopped at the commit that I want to edit. And it's telling me what to do. So anything I want to modify, I would add it, and then I would amend it, and then I would continue the rebase. So I'm going to do something that won't fail linting. So I'm going to do a comment. So you see here, it stopped at this commit midway through my branch. So I'm ready to amend this thing. So if I want to change the commit message, I can. I'm not going to. All right, that has been amended. Now I'm going to continue. Conflict. This is a good demonstration. So this is because I modified app.ts in multiple commits. And so this is just a demonstration of avoiding separating commits that should be in one commit. I can get into that in more detail, but I'm just going to deal with this now. You know, I want to keep that hello world, so let's just do that. So what is it telling me? It's telling me to fix conflicts and then continue. So I want to add that. I don't want to commit. I want to rebase. So it was conflicting with this subsequent commit. All right. So all my commits are still here. I've modified this commit to correct a bug. It's not actually a bug. It's just a commit or just a comment. I comment is here now, and it belongs to the commit that I actually introduced the bug in. So that is an edit. So just before you push to the remote, just do a sanity check. Test your work, make sure it compiles, do like an npm run dev and so on, and then you can push to your remote. So I'm just going to do a small info dump here. If you would have a merge conflict using git merge, you'd still have that same conflict using git rebase. The main difference is it doesn't prevent, it prevents that foxtrot merge. It also lets you do all that crazy stuff like edit, reword, arranging commits, squashing, and so on. So it's resolved in the exact same way as a merge conflict using git merge. You'd have, you saw right there, you'd have to select the one and delete the lines that git inserts and so on, and then add it. And because Git Rebase applies commits one at a time to the branch you're providing, make sure to clean up your branch before trying to make your branch up to date with develop. That's because you saw there 2 of my commits touched app.ts, and as a result I had to do a merge conflict. If my code was less clean, I could have had maybe 2 or 3 merge conflicts because the commits were applied one at a time. So that's a caveat that you shouldn't have to worry about if you just follow best practices, keeping commits independent, not reliant on one another, and so on. Because commits should be independent of one another, it is far simpler to merge commits than it is to separate one commit into multiple. You'd have to do something called staging hunks, which I'm not going to get into. So just avoid mixing tasks within one commit. Like if I'm implementing a feature in a bug fix, to separate those into separate commits as I'm working on them. Because it is easier to merge commits rather than separate them. Trend towards making too many work in progress commits rather than too few. I think that's it for my demo of Git. Is there any questions? Yeah, so git push -f. Make sure to do a sanity check before you do that, just to make sure everything's good and compiles. I didn't do that just because this is a demo. I'm probably going to push F offline. This may just sound like me saying RTFM, but there are tons of documentation online.
Yeah, okay.
If you want to explain to you can, but there would be explanations of it within dedicated resources.
Yeah.
There would also be Stack Overflow. I think the internet would honestly be a better resource than anything I could come up with. But yeah, this just requires trial and error. That's why I said to make sure your remote is a backup, because at some point you're going to make a mistake, just like you would with other Git commands when you were inexperienced, and you can scrap whatever you ruined and use the remote to preserve your data.
Yeah, Mike, just Google it.
Yeah, Google is the best friend.